Today we have a story time of a kid who thinks he can break the law. This spoiled rich kid drives over 130 miles per hour on a police chase just because his dad has money, so he thinks that he can rule the world. Well, karma's about to hit this spoiled rich kid and tell him how the world actually works. If that story sounds interesting, make sure to stick around, leave a like on the video right now to claim your free nothing, subscribe to the channel if you're new and like stories. With that being said, let's just jump right into it. So anyways, we're going to call the subscriber, well actually, here's the thing. This story is from a subscriber's older brother. So we're going to call the subscriber's older brother, and I might just say the subscriber's story later on, Andrew. So anyways, this happened back in the day when Andrew was in college. Probably around sophomore year. Andrew's brother's actually quite a bit older, so he's a little fuzzy on this. Anyways, there was this kid who came in, so it wasn't freshman year, it wasn't when everyone was new, it was sophomore year. So whenever in college, most people come in freshman year, but sometimes you'll have more people come in sophomore year, junior year, or maybe even transfer in senior year. So this guy came in sophomore year, and Andrew had a group of friends, and life was pretty good. And this new kid, who we're going to call Ben, of course we're going to call him Ben, he comes in there, he's looking for friends. He's pretty tame in the beginning. And Andrew had no idea that this was the biggest spoiled rich kid of all time, who had no conception of reality or how laws work or something like that. This is the type of spoiled rich kid to be like, hey guys, can you relate to this? My private jet was late to take me to my private yacht. It was 5 minutes late. I didn't know what I could do with myself. So, I decided to spend $10,000 on my dad's credit card to pass the time. That's the type of level of absurdity of trying to be relatable with that type of story. Anyways, at this point, Andrew had no idea that Ben was any bit like this. So sure enough, in the first couple weeks, this kid Ben comes in. I think Andrew and one of Andrew's friends, we'll call him Will, they had a class together, and they're all part of the bigger friend group. And Ben was in that class as well. And Ben was, since he was a transferring sophomore year, he knew he had to work a little bit harder to make some friends. Sat next to Andrew and Will on the first day. They kind of struck it up. And Ben's very good conversational. He isn't a complete, he is out of touch rich kid 100%, but he's also very good at first impressions, your first kind of conversation. He's conversationally intelligent, right? He knows how to have a conversation. He knows how to be relatable. Well, he'll have some slips later up. But anyways, so, they're chatting the first day, and Ben is very much hey, what are you guys doing? Well, whatever. So Andrew and Will think this guy's pretty cool, right? There's no reason they shouldn't. Especially with guy friend groups I've seen. It's oh, you like this one thing I like and we have nothing else in common. Let's be best friends. And I kind of like being a guy for that reason. Anyways, though, so sure enough, right, first couple weeks, Ben's kind of integrating into Andrew's big friend group. They're doing stuff together. They go to the bar together, whatever. They're chilling. They're having a good time. And there's a couple slips that were kind of weird. They're talking about, what they did for last, or I think Andrew and his friends were reminiscing about the spring break that they had freshman year. And Ben was oh yeah, I did a solo, a little tiny break, you know what I'm saying? And then he goes on to say that he jetted across all of Europe. And they're they kind of look at each other. Andrew kind of looks at Wells yo, was he a little tiny vacation? Bro, that's probably 20 bands right there, assuming you didn't fly private, which turns out he did. But they're kind of looking at each other oh, okay, well, that was a little bit of oh, yeah, I just casually did that. And it wasn't a big deal. It's not that deep, right? And they don't care if Ben's parents have a bajillion dollars, some crazy hedge fund manager. It's not that deep, really. But it was just interesting that would just kind of slipped in. And there was a couple other things, Ben would wear a $20,000 Rolex to class. And Andrew happened to know a lot about watches, so a lot of people probably didn't even realize. I think Rolex is pretty popular now. People kind of can recognize it, but Andrew was super into watches, so he really knew damn, that's a crazy watch to have if you're a college kid. And I'm gonna make the bold assumption that you didn't buy that yourself through I don't know, unless this kid was behind the biggest crypto pump and dump of all time. But other than that, it's pretty unlikely that this kid was able to buy that type of watch by himself, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so it was a Saturday night. Andrew and all of his friends, they go to a house party And Ben was invited, but he was like, I don't know, he was golfing or something. And he was like, nah, I'm just going to chill. And this was still kind of in the beginning, couple weeks. So Ben was still trying to integrate himself into the group, you know. I've definitely been in situations, especially high school. I totally bombed in the friend department in my freshman year. In my sophomore year, there's a couple of guys I really liked. And, you know, I had to go out of my way to like integrate myself into the friend group. I had to like, hey, where are you guys going? What are you doing here? Let me do this. Want to do this. And that's just kind of part of the deal, man. I mean, it's not that they weren't like being friendly or anything. They were. It's just sometimes you got to go out of your way. And then within a couple months, like they became like my best friends of all time. And I still talk to them, right? Still talk to them to this day. But you got to put in some effort in the beginning. So Ben was doing the same thing. And Andrew's like, oh, it's cool. Like he's putting in effort, like whatever. So Andrew and his friends go to this house party. It's cool. It's probably like 1 a.m. at this point, and they get a text from Ben saying, hey guys, like I didn't drink tonight. Like, do you want to ride back? So it was Ben and it was Will and the other friends already got an Uber, and it was Andrew and Will. And Andrew looks at Will, is like, okay. And they're like, dude, you don't need to. They text Ben. They're like, hey man, you don't have to do this. But yeah, I mean, we're 10 minutes out of this address. Like that would be sick. Like, save us $20 on a Lyft or an Uber. Like that's pretty cool. We do appreciate that. And at that moment, like, Will turns to Andrew like, oh, this kid's kind of sick. Like, really appreciate him. Like driving his bag, being the DD is kind of cool. Like, I respect that, like, mad respect. And so anyways, eventually Ben pulls up, and they've actually never seen Ben's car before. And it was like Andrew wasn't as much of a car guy as he was a watch guy, but he knew, like, this was a badass ride. It wasn't like a Ferrari, like, what color is your Bugatti type car, but it was like a brand new BMW M4, something along those lines with like super new, all the bells and whistles, like the whatever. I'm not a car person at all, so like I really can't like explain it that much more besides like it was a sick ride. And it definitely, I think it was like sport mode or something, so it was that type of car. I'm running out of the correct vocabulary to describe this properly, but those who know cars maybe can go in the comment section, make some guesses or some explanations where I'm lacking here. Anyways, when the ride pulls up, like some other kids who are at the house party are still there, kind of like, dude, like that's a crazy car. They're like, yeah, man. And that's when, Ben rolls down the window. He's like, yo, Andrew, like, Will, like, all right, hop in. And then the guy at the house party's like, dude, that's your boy? And at this point, they're kind of like, yeah, it is. Like, this is my boy who's picking me up from a house party. Hell yeah. And also on top of that, he's like got this sick car that everyone's like, oh my God, like this is a pretty cool ride. It's funny. There's this guy who's like really, really good at internet marketing and is like one of the best internet marketers of all time. And he made an observation. I'll just say it. You guys probably know Ty Lopez, Here in My Garage. I mean, maybe you guys are too young to remember that ad. Whatever you think about him, you got to admit he's one of the greatest internet marketers of all time. He was in the Hollywood Hills, and he was out with one of his friends, and he made an observation. Out in Hollywood, he was watching. There's guys outside or whatever, and like the most beautiful girl, whatever, walks down. Some of them look right, but when a badass car went down, like a Lamborghini or something, every car looked. There's definitely something about like a sick ride that is just like really like guys just like that stuff apparently. Anyways, though, enough of the tangent. So Andrew and Will are like, this kid's kind of sick. Like, we like him. I mean, little do they know what kind of absolute like degeneracy they're about to get into and how this kid isn't exactly, who he's like seeming to be at first. Anyway, so Andrew and Will step out. They're like, yeah, bye guys. Like, we're going into our boy's sick ride who's picking us up. Like, kind of cool, right? And they're kind of, strutting out a little bit, and they hop in the car and they're like, dude, like this car's awesome. Ben's like, yeah, man, like, it's pretty cool. Like, I'm definitely a bit of a car guy. So my parents, for my birthday decided to help me get this. It's probably like $100,000 car or something, like probably even more. I don't know, but it's like crazy. And they're just kind of like looking in there, like, Will kind of like wiped off his shoes a little bit. He's not trying to scuff anything up. He's like, damn, this ride's sick. Anyway, so they hop in the car, sick ride. Like, they're kind of just like talking about it. And they're only 10 minutes away from where they live, so not that far. And at this point, like, I think Ben knows that they're pretty impressed. They think it's pretty cool. So Ben's like, hey, like, do you want to see how this, like, do you want to, like, I don't know, see how this car is? And at this point, Andrew's like, sure. I'm just going back to bed. It's Sunday, or it's Saturday. I guess it's Sunday. It's 1 a.m. So it's technically Sunday night or Sunday morning at that point. He's got nothing, no real big tests or exams he has to study for the next day. So he's like, screw it, dude. I don't need to be back anytime soon. Yeah, let's see how it looks. So in Andrew and Will's mind, they were probably going to go on some, I don't know, beaten path somewhere, drive really quick for a second and be like, whoa, this car's fast. They did not expect what was going to happen next. Anyways, so Ben starts talking about how fast this car can go, because it's one of the sport models. It's a really good one. And it could go pretty fast, right? If he was, driving this car in a race, or he was in one of those things, sure, whatever. But anyways, they kind of expect him to go on the highway, then immediately go off to because they're kind of near farmland-ish, so there's a lot of untreaded paths, right, that they could go pretty fast. And it's not really a good idea to do this, just so don't speed anywhere. You could hit someone, you could get in a crash, you could just spin out even with no one there. It's still pretty dangerous, but they were more comfortable with that. Anyways, they get on the highway, and that's when Ben starts showing how fast the car can go. Yeah, I get it, on the highway, you can go fast because it's the highway, but there's a billion other cars there. There's traffic. There's other bad drivers. You don't want to be speeding on the highway. Anyways, they're going crazy fast. And he just starts it's 50, 60, 70, 80. Sure, people are going 70, 80, 90 on the highway, but they're bump, bump, bump. They're accelerating quick. And Will glances at Andrew yo, what? We're doing it here? And Andrew's like, dude, this is sick. Do you want to find a beaten path to check how fast this car can go? And he's like, nah, trust. I'm a good driver. Sure, he was a good driver. But then it's 100. 105. They're flying down the highway. And at this point, Andrew's gripping the side of the car. Will's in the back seat, oh my God. Will's probably oh, I'm not trying to puke. I'm getting motion sickness from just going this fast. This is kind of crazy. Anyway, so they're just spraying down the highways, weaving out. It's those crazy videos you see on TikTok of the people highway surfing, where they weave in between cars going super fast. That's extremely dangerous. Never do that. If someone's in the car doing that, tell them you got to get out immediately somehow. That is, you're basically just asking for it at that point. So they're basically highway surfing at 100 miles per hour. And I think in Ben's mind, he's oh, they probably think I'm so sick. This is awesome. They're going to love this. Will and Andrew do not love this at all. They're what the fuck? This is crazy. This kid's gonna kill us both. Anyways, so they're weaving down the highway, and at this point, Andrew and Will are just dude, I'm just praying for my life at this point. This is insane. But here's the thing. If you speed 110 on the highway and there happens to be a cop nearby, well, let's just say the cop's going to enforce the traffic laws. And that's exactly what happened. So within only a couple minutes of doing this, they see flashing lights behind them. And Ben's nah, I'm not getting pulled over. So at this point, Andrew and Will are shoot, we're going to get damn it. We're going to probably get a ticket, maybe a citation. If, I don't know. They're just we don't think Ben's under the influence of anything, but to drive this crazy dude, I don't know. I really don't know. So they expect Ben to eventually pull over to the side of the highway. All that stuff's going to happen. Andrew and Will are oh my God, this is already too long of a night. But here's the thing. He's not slowing down at all. In fact, he starts going faster. And at this point, Andrew's yo, dude, you're not going to pull over? And Ben's no, I cannot get pulled over. My parents will kill me. And he's your parents are going to kill you if you get a high-speed chase with the cops. Yeah. So Ben decides that the best idea here, the best path forward, is doing a high-speed chase with the cops. Which, by the way, later in the story, guns get drawn. I'm just giving you a little hint. But if you made it this far into the video, I want you to comment door down below. Those who know, and just generally, I'll tell you a secret word if you made it more than halfway through the video. I can see it. Yes, people are well, you can see on your analytics who made it this far. Yeah, I can see your retention curve. I can see the percentage of people who made it this far, but I like seeing the names and the faces of people who made it this far. So comment door down below. Anyways, high-speed chase, driving down, stops going fast. And at this point, they're both kind of freaking out in the backseat. They're both getting very uncomfortable. And they're just kind of like, the drive is kind of spinning back and forth, whatever. And then there's another cop car. There's now 2 cop cars. And now there's 3 cop cars. It is fully transformed into a full-on high-speed chase. Like, actually insane. So at this point, he's just like, they're in the backseat. They're just like texting each other back and forth. Andrew and like Will, I mean, as much as they can, besides they're like gripping onto the side of the seat. And Will's in the backseat, like, dude, we're going to get arrested. Like, this is actually going to be bad because we're like accomplices now. Yeah, we're not driving, but for all, like, it doesn't matter at this point. Anyways, after about like 10 minutes of this high-speed chase, eventually Ben's just like realize, because there's now like 5 cop cars chasing them. It's like full on, like, if they kept going for longer, there would have been like helicopters and like the news would have been covering it live, like one of those type of situations. So eventually Ben just like pulls over on the side of the highway and he's like, oh, I just thought like we couldn't get a DUI. And Andrew's like, you've been drinking? He's like, no, but you guys have. He's like, but we're not driving. He's like, oh, I don't know. So basically Ben panicked, thought that like just because like Andrew and Will were in the backseat and they drank that night, whatever, it was a college party. He thought that they were going to get like a DUI. Dude, that only happens if you're driving, bro. I mean, you can't have the open bottles, whatever, etc. But they're like, bro, what? Like, they were just like beyond words for what happened. So they pull over. The 5 cop cars get behind them, flashing lights, and they're all just kind of sitting there. And that's when they hear, step out of the car, hands above your head. And at this point, they're just looking at each other like, this just got serious. Like, this went from a speeding ticket to like a full-on like bad, to put it lightly, full-on bad. Anyways, so they're just like, they obviously oblige. They're not going to like try and speed off or something. But anyways, they like, Andrew remembers putting his head, like opening the door slowly, hands up immediately. And he sees a row of 5 cops with like guns pointed at him. So anyways, they get on the ground, hands up. The cops come over, put them in cuffs, bring them into Andrew's in the backseat of the cop car being driven, like they're being questioned or whatever. And at this point, like, I think it's like you're told like you shouldn't speak, like you don't have to, and for the sake of the case or whatever. But they were just like, when they were still like old drunk, so they're like freaking out. They're not thinking the best, and they're just like, Andrew basically just said like, look, I know this guy. He said, I asked for like, he offered to like give us a ride back. I said, sure. And he said, hey, do you want to see how like fast this car can go? And I was like, whatever. Like I'm not in control. And then all of a sudden, like we end up here. Anyways, brought into the station. Actually, all of them get hit with a bunch of charges. Like, it's not good for Will. It's not good for... I didn't get this exact details, but I got the details that, even Will and Andrew got something because, like, they were in the situation, but Ben got it the worst. By far, Ben got it the worst, obviously, because he was the one driving. And they get a bunch of charges. Car gets impounded. And let me just say that Ben transferred again. Because after that, like, Will and Andrew immediately, like, went back and, like, woke up their roommates. And the roommates are like, it's 3 a.m. Why are you waking us up? And he's like, we wouldn't wake you up if it wasn't worth it. After telling their roommates, like, and their friends, because they all live together, the story, they're like, okay, yeah, that's fair. You woke us up. We would have been pissed for any other reason. But that was genuinely a fair reason. They did not hang out with Ben after that. It was very awkward in that class. So like Ben tried to sit with them one more time, but then it was like very clear that they were being super cold, which look, this guy almost got them not only just arrested, almost got them killed. First of all, if you're driving that fast on the highways, going back and forth with all that, you could have hit someone, crash out, died. But also the police chase, like if they have guns drawn, like things happen. You see it all the time on the news. Like it was genuinely a problem. So yeah, Ben I think Ben tried to like hang out with some other people, but like it was a big college, but this was also a big story. And word got out pretty quick, and Ben ended up transferring again. I think he just wanted a clean slate somewhere else. And Will and Andrew and his friends were probably thinking like, I wonder why this kid transferred in the first place. Look, transfers happen all the time, but like, I wonder like if some other crazy thing happened and he needed a clean slate. Like they never asked why. They just assumed, the school wasn't a fit. So he wanted to try something new. Look, Moral of the story here, if your friend offers to drive you around somewhere fast, like, probably shouldn't do it. And also, never trust a dude with something to prove and also that much horsepower at that age. Thank you.